Hey ho, and what do you know? And welcome everybody to another edition of the Balkin podcast. I'm Alex once again. And in this episode, we're going over the 10 trades we need to see in this year's MLB offseason. Now, we've seen a couple trades so far. We've seen Teoscar Hernandez go to the Seattle Mariners, Kyle Lewis to the Arizona Diamondbacks. Probably a few more on the way and a few more that are being discussed right now. But let's dive right into this and talk about the 10 trades that need to happen this MLB season. The way I went about this is I ran every trade through baseball trade values. Personally, I love it. I know people tend to love it or hate it. I personally love it. Recommend it if you're a diehard fan. But I went through every single player that I think could be available, and I made trades based off of that. Every trade is approved on baseball trade values, and we have it all listed for you. You're going to be able to see it in the episode as well. So hope you guys enjoy. These are the 10 trades we want to see this MLB offseason. We're starting off with the Texas Rangers getting Ian Happ. And in this trade, I got Cole Winn, and I'm going to butcher the name, so I apologize. Yasan Morabel, the outfield prospect, going to the Chicago Cubs. Now, the Rangers need a left fielder. Ian Happ can play left field. He can play a little bit of infield. He can play multiple positions all around the field, which I think is going to be very appealing to the Texas Rangers, besides the fact that he can hit 20, maybe even 30 home runs and be a guy that really can protect, guys like Marcus Semien, Corey Seager, and others in that lineup, and just be another guy that they can rely on. For the Cubs, you're getting Cole Winn, who is a guy who is a former top pick and former top prospect who struggled last year in AAA. I think he's probably going to be a mid-rotation guy. He's got the stuff to stick in the majors. But the real key here is Morabel, who fits their profile. He is young. He has 5-tool upside. He dominated rookie ball. He scuffled a little bit in A ball, but at the end of the day, this is a deal that the Cubs, I think, can and will make. They got to move Ian Happ. He's in the last year. That contract, very affordable. Someone like the Rangers, who are going to be spending big, have a lot of money to spend, may use this opportunity to get an Ian Happ on maybe the cheap from the Chicago Cubs. And why stop at just Ian Happ? The Texas Rangers also get David Bednar from the Pittsburgh Pirates. The Rangers do not have a closer, period. End of story. They threw that out when they traded Emmanuel Clase to my Guardians. But at the end of the day, the Rangers need to go get somebody. Yes, David Bednar didn't have a great second half, but he was dominant in the first half. Looked like one of the best closers in baseball. And yes, this is a steep price to pay. You're trading Justin Foscue, who's one of the top prospects in the Rangers organization, a guy who can be O'Neill Cruz's partner in crime, and he has been hitting very well at every level. He got up to AA last year. He looks like the real deal. I know our MLB The Show fans are going to absolutely love him in this deal because he's one of the better prospect cards in the game. At the same time, you got Dustin Harris. He's also made it to AA. He shows some 5-tool potential. Maybe an outfielder, maybe a first baseman. The glove is questionable. The arm is too, but he is talented. He could be a 5-tool guy. At the same time, you have, I can't pronounce the name, Daniel Cueva. Again, if I'm butchering these names, I apologize. I suck at pronouncing names. But Daniel Cueva, he is the wild card here. He tore up rookie ball, and he's a toolsy shortstop for the Pirates to work with. This is the guy that, again, this is one of those wild card trades where that prospect may turn into something. But for the Pirates, you're getting a lot of talent here for David Bednar. It's worth making a trade. I mean, Foscue alone, makes this an intriguing offer to begin with. But it's not going to be cheap for anyone to get David Bednar. But I think the Rangers absolutely need to go get a closer, and that's David Bednar. We got Scott Barlow going to the Philadelphia Phillies. The Phillies had a great run last year, and they could use another reliever, maybe a more reliable closer type in the back end of that bullpen. And Scott Barlow has shown a lot of potential to be a solid closer for the Royals. Now, has he had big, high leverage saves? No, not really, but the stuff is electric. He is a guy that would fit beautifully in Philadelphia. And it is a little bit of a steep price if you're the Phillies, because you're talking about Griff McGarry, who's the guy who has electric stuff, who could be a front of the rotation starter for, the Royals or maybe even the Phillies if they decide not to move him. But it's a steep price to pay, but I think it's absolutely worth it to go get a closer like Scott Barlow. There aren't that many relievers on the market at this time. You get Griff McGarry. He's the centerpiece of this deal. You throw in a guy like Jordan Vilars, who is a very talented outfielder, big time power. And this is a guy who has the tools that the Royals recently have been doing really well in developing. So he kind of fits their mold in how they develop guys. Then you got Hans Kraus, who's been a top prospect for a while. He's kind of fallen off. He had biceps tendonitis, throughout the year, but he finally made his MLB debut. He didn't look great last year, probably feeling the effects of the injury, maybe more of a buy low moment for the Royals to go get Kraus. But I think he's a guy that at the very least could be a back end starter, maybe even work his way in as a reliever, maybe even fill the role of Barlow one day. Who the heck knows? But if you're the Royals, this is a very good price to get for a guy like Scott Barlow. But the Phillies, more than anything, they get a guy who I think can be their closer. We got Pablo Lopez to the Baltimore Orioles. And yes, this trade is a 1-for-1 swap. Pablo Lopez for Cedric Mullins. Cedric Mullins did have a down year. It might be the moment for the Orioles to sell on Cedric Mullins. They have a bunch of prospects coming up through the ranks. They have money to spend. They can go get a replacement if they need to. It's better to go get a Pablo Lopez at this price than having to go pay for one of the top pitchers on the market. I think this is a smart move for Baltimore to go get Pablo Lopez to be a front rotation guy, with Grayson Rodriguez probably arriving next year and fitting in with all their arms and make the Orioles a very dangerous team, especially if they're to go land a Carlos Correa. Or one of the shortstops, even just one of them. If they land one of them and also get Lopez, yes, I think it's worth trading a Cedric Mullins to go get him. The Marlins have wanted Cedric Mullins for a while. They want a center fielder. The need is there. It just feels like it is the perfect trade for both parties to make. I think the Marlins, the big thing I got with the Marlins is I don't know what direction they're going right now. Are they going to rebuild? Are they going to compete? What are they really doing here? I think at this point, I would personally prefer, if I were the Marlins, a full-blown rebuild type trade, but getting a Cedric Mullins back may make you fairly competitive in the NL East, and you're getting good return for Pablo Lopez, especially if Cedric Mullins can return to his 2021 form. If you get that Cedric Mullins, this is an A+ out of the ballpark deal for the Marlins. All right, we got Tarik Skubal going to the Los Angeles Dodgers. The Dodgers just lost Tyler Anderson to the Los Angeles Angels, so now they got to be looking for a little bit of pitching help. Yes, you brought back Kershaw. Yes, you got Julio Urias. You have all Arias. It's one of the two. I can never guess which one it is. See, I'm terrible pronouncing names. But anyways, Tarik Skubal to the Dodgers. It makes a ton of sense for the Tigers to sell on Skubal now. He's coming off the injury this year. But his price tag may never be higher. So if you're the Dodgers, it's a steep price to pay. But for the Tigers, this is a moment where, you know what? You may not be really going anywhere in your division. May not hurt you to sell off Skubal and get some pieces that can help you in about a year. Andy Pages is a big-time power bat, high upside, is going to be a corner outfield guy that they desperately need going forward. Could be a piece they can build around, and the Dodgers like him a lot. This would not be easy for them to give him up, but I think it's worth it for the Dodgers to go get a guy like Skubal and put him in that rotation. My God, Skubal might actually be a Cy Young candidate in that rotation. But also you get Maddox Bruns, who has elite stuff as a lefty pitcher, who might make you forget the name of Tarik Skubal in time if he can get his control under control. I didn't mean to do that, but that's how I just said it. But if Maddox Bruns can get the control there, he really could be a guy that makes you forget that you had Tarek Skubal. And then Landon Knack is a guy who I like. He's a control pitcher, but he did not have a great year last year. Not really sure what the problem was last year. Put him in Detroit, maybe be a back-end starter, maybe a guy who can make it into the relief staff. They need relief help too, so maybe Landon Knack becomes a guy who becomes, seventh, eighth inning guy for them going forward, and the Tigers really start rebuilding that bullpen, getting Bruns to be that Skubal replacement, and Pages becoming a corner outfielder that they definitely need. All right, we got Alejandro Kirk to my Cleveland Guardians. Look, if you follow Guardians Twitter at all, we all want a catcher that can hit. And I can tell you for a fact, in the Jose Ramirez trade, Alejandro Kirk was going to be the centerpiece of that trade going to the Guardians. The Guardians do like him a lot. They think he can frame the plate fairly well. Is not a great defender, but can hit the ball well. As proven last year, he was an all-star. He is a guy that fits perfectly into really what they need, which is a guy that can give Bo Naylor, going into the future, days off at catcher, but also be a guy that can be a DH, catcher, first baseman, stuff like that, that can kind of like rotate it in and not have to worry about like who the backup is. Yeah, he won't provide you great defense, but he hits the ball very, very well. For the Blue Jays, you're getting Brian Rocchio, who the Guardians are very high on, Jose Tena, Logan T. Allen, and Xavier Curry. Curry made his major league debut last year. He was okay in a couple starts, wasn't really sexy of a pitcher, and he's not going to blow you away. He's just a command pitcher, but he's got decent stuff, and he could make the back end of a rotation. Logan T. Allen dominated AA and AAA last year, one of the best pitchers in the minors last year, and really is on the Guardians' radar to be a guy that may make the rotation next year. Jose Tena, he's been one of the younger guys wherever he's gone, but he has produced at every level, and I think with his glove, he's a potential Gold Glover waiting to happen. He is listed as a shortstop. I have him as a second baseman. For this, the Blue Jays get a lot of talent that either A, you could flip in another deal, or B, maybe it makes some other players expendable. And playing off that, Brandon Woodruff to the Toronto Blue Jays. Yes, this trade is one that I would love to see. The Blue Jays needed another ace with Alek Manoah. If you got a Brandon Woodruff with Alek Manoah, I mean, the Blue Jays are going to be one of the most dangerous teams in the American League. Yes, they lost Teoscar Hernandez. You get Eric Swanson, who's one of the better, underrated relievers in the game, and you put him in that bullpen with Romano, who pitched very, very well. Now you get Woodruff and Manoah, who are going to eat innings for you, and you have that offense still. The Blue Jays will be one of the best teams in the American League if they make this kind of deal. Now, the price is not cheap. You got Ricky Tiedemann, who was outstanding last year, one of the best pitchers in the minors last year. And you also get Aurelvis Martinez. Now, Tiedemann is the guy who probably the Brewers, knowing their front office, they're going to develop this guy into a potential ace and make you forget Brandon Woodruff's name. The key here is, can they turn around Aurelvis Martinez, who had a very bad year, I would say, in AA last year, struck out a lot. He strikes out way too much. The power is there, but he strikes out way too much for my taste. And more importantly, I don't know if he's a shortstop. I think he's more of a third baseman than anything else. He has the arm to play third, but I don't think he has the range at short to stay at shortstop. And I think he'll end up being a third baseman at the major league level. If they can turn around his strikeouts and make him, a little bit more patient at the plate, I think the Blue Jays are going to get an ace here, but I think the Brewers could end up winning this deal, 4 years down the road if Martinez can live up to his potential and Tiedemann keeps progressing at the rate he is. But for the Blue Jays, this is a move you make if you're intending to win a World Series. Mark Ross, go get this guy. All right, one of the big trade pieces of this offseason, Sean Murphy going to the St. Louis Cardinals. Yes, I got Murphy going to the Cardinals, not the Guardians, though I have heard rumors the Guardians are very serious about Sean Murphy and are very much in the sweepstakes for him. I think at the end of the day, the Cardinals are the perfect fit for Sean Murphy. I mean, you're looking at a guy who does everything. He can hit, he can field, doesn't really run that great, but he just does everything Yadi Molina excelled at. This is a Yadi Molina replacement. And in this trade, it's a big one, but it's worth every penny if you're the Cardinals. They get Sean Murphy and AJ Puke, who can be a high upside lefty reliever for them. And in exchange, you're giving up Mason Wynn, which I think no matter what, the A's want a top shortstop prospect back in this deal. So Mason Wynn from the Cardinals, Brian Rocchio from the Guardians, something like that. But Mason Wynn in this trade to the A's, along with Alec Burleson, who absolutely tore up the minors last year. I'd argue he was one of the best minor league hitters out there last year. He's major league ready, can play first base or the outfield. Absolutely love him. I think he's going to be a guy that A's fans are going to love, and he fits the mold for them. He totally fits the mold for the A's. You got Josh Baez, who's young, big time power, needs to cut down the strikeouts, but a 30-homer bat in a couple years can definitely play right field. He's got the rocket arm in right field. Josh Baez would be someone that the A's would love. And then you get Michael McGreevy, who's been very consistent with the Cardinals in the minors. I absolutely love him. I know a lot of people say it's Shane Bieber 2.0. I wouldn't go that far, but he's very, very consistent and a guy that I think the A's would absolutely love to get in this deal. At the end of the day, the Cardinals get their Yadi Molina replacement, and it's worth every cent that they give up in this trade. We got Brian Reynolds to the New York Yankees next. And this is all depending on what Aaron Judge does. Now, recently, the Dodgers are rumored to be jumping in on the Aaron Judge discussions, which makes, I think, a little bit more plausible that Judge could leave the Yankees. Because if the Dodgers get in with the Giants, it's going to be a bidding war. I think he's going to go west at that point. And if you're the Yankees and you lose someone like Aaron Judge, you need to get someone like a Brian Reynolds in there immediately to fill the gap. This will not be a cheap price. I mean, he's got a lot of control. He's been one of the more consistent bats on a terrible Pittsburgh team. And I'm just going to say this. That lefty bat in Yankee Stadium is going to easily hit 30 home runs. In that Little League Park, 30 home runs for Brian Reynolds next year. It's going to be worth every penny you pay for this kid. So the Pirates get Jason Dominguez to start off. The Martian. Yes, he started living up to some of his potential last year, but I think some of that hype has started to wane off because he's not hitting like we expected. The speed's there. There is power. I don't think he's going to hit for as high as average, I think, as we all had hoped. I think he can be an easily 20-20 bat, maybe even a 30-30 bat at his peak. But, you know, what position is he going to play in the outfield? Could he stay at center? Is he going to move to the corners? Who knows at this point? And he's just getting the AA. So he still needs a little bit more time before he's ready. Then you got Oswald Peraza, who I would move to second base immediately to put next to O'Neal Cruz. I think those two up the middle would be outstanding together. It'd be something for Pittsburgh to build around. And Peraza showed a lot of promise throughout all of last year, even when he got to New York. It's going to be a tough pill to swallow for the Yankees to move him. But at the end of the day, Anthony Volpe is almost ready. I saw him playing Binghamton last year. The kid has the pitch clock stealing down to a T. He was one of the best base runners in the minors last year. The bat is for real. He was a little bit shorter than I expected when I met him, but great kid. He's a true leader. I mean, one of the most hyped up prospects in the game. I'm not here saying he's going to be Derek Jeter, but I think he is going to be the Yankees starting shortstop for a long time, which makes Oswald Peraza, I think, a little bit more expendable than Volpe, especially for the right player. Then lastly, you throw in Will Warren, who's got good rotation stuff, a 3,000 RPMs, sliders. So he's got a plus slider. Sorry, tongue twister there. He's got good stuff. He can be a middle of the rotation guy. Worst case, he's going to be a strong reliever for them. Probably that would be a guy if you trade Bednar who could end up closing for you. But I think Will Warren will be more so in that rotation for the Pirates going forward and be an effective arm in there. But for the Yankees, you get your Aaron Judge replacement. Yes, he's never going to be Aaron Judge numbers, but he's going to be one of the better players in the American League. And I'll just say this, on a Yankee team like that, with the way he plays, it wouldn't even shock me if he puts up MVP numbers in that stadium wearing the pinstripes. And number 1, Shohei Ohtani to the New York Mets. This trade is not happening, but this video is not about, and this podcast is not about the 10 trades that are realistically going to happen. No, this is the 10 trades we need to see. And this is more of a teaser for my Angels, how I would fix some video that's coming soon. Shohei Ohtani needs to be traded from the Angels. Now, the question is to where? That's the question with him on a 1-year deal. Who is going to pay the price and risk him going to free agency? I'm not 100% sure. There's only one team that I can really think of that'd be willing to pay the price and at the same time make the Godfather offer to Shohei Ohtani and make sure he doesn't leave. And that's Uncle Stevie. If Uncle Stevie gets a chance to get the biggest name in baseball and a guy who can be a front of the rotation starter for him and the big bat he needs in the middle of that lineup next to Alonso and Lindor, he's going to go get him. And this price tag is not cheap at all. For the Angels, you're getting back a haul. You're starting off with Brett Beatty, a guy who is one of the best people in the minors that I had the pleasure of meeting and getting to know a little bit. He's a guy that's a 30-homer bat waiting to happen in the majors. I would say a Joey Gallo type, and I have said that to his face. That's a fun story for another day. But Joey Gallo type, I think better average and less power than Gallo. I think he can stick at the major league level. Question is third base, first base, left field. Where is he going to play? I would put him more so at first base. That's just me. I think he can be a potential Gold Glover there, but I think he ends up staying at third base with the Mets right now. Or if he was with the Angels, I think he'd go to left field because of the Gio Urshela trade. Then you throw in Ronnie Mauricio, who is one heck of a character. Had the pleasure of knowing him a little bit as well. Was a very good hitter last year in Binghamton. Was very clutch for them as well. I don't see him sticking at shortstop. I think he's a second baseman, but I think he's a second baseman with 20 to even 30 homer power if he's in the right stadium. Mauricio doesn't have the greatest glove, doesn't have the greatest arm, but that's why I put him at second base over shortstop. But he is a capable shortstop. I've seen him make plays where even I was a little bit stunned about him doing that. So Ryan Mauricio would be a great addition for the Angels as well. Then you get Mark Vientos, another major league ready bat who is very pull happy, but a very big power bat. I've only heard great things about him through the Mets organization. Vientos, I think, would be more so a first baseman. If you keep Beatty at third, it could be a vice versa thing, flip him back and forth, who knows? But Vientos is a guy, high character, big time bat. I think he's got 20 to 30 homer bat potential. I think he hits for average better than Beatty. I think he'll be a 260 hitter in the majors. But again, you are reinvigorating an Angels, farm system that has nobody except Logan O'Hoppe. That's it. And then lastly, coming off of Tommy John surgery, Matthew Allen, who looked like an ace before his injury. Now he hasn't pitched in a couple years. So this year we're finally going to get to see him pitch again. The question is, what does he have left? This is one of those things where the Mets could say, you know what, we're not sure. And the Angels could say, you want to know what? It's worth taking the risk, because if Allen returns to form, he's a front of the rotation ace type for anyone that gets him. I'm a huge fan of his. I'm curious to see how he pitches off that injury. But at the end of the day, if you're the Mets, this is the guy, Shohei Ohtani, that's going to change everything for you and get you over the hump. And if you're the Angels, this is the team that can reinvigorate your minor league system and start your rebuild. And that's all I'll say on the Angels, because we'll save that for the next video. And there you have it, the 10 trades we need to see this MLB offseason. What'd you guys think? What players did I miss? Do you agree or disagree with some of the trades? Put some comments below and let me know what you guys think. If you're listening to us on the podcast, which we're getting that up and running on Anchor, please subscribe. Make sure you leave a review on there. But we hope you guys tune to the next one, because the next one's going to be a fun one. It is how I would fix the Los Angeles Angels. And I've teased it already. We already started with Ohtani. Do we go even further than that? You have to stay tuned to find out, you guys. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll talk to you next time.